Just going to make a quick video, kind of go through how I make night tracks in Sandbox. Just going to use this Kentucky that I made. Once it loads, it's uh, it's it's not too hard to make a night track. It's a little time consuming just to make it look like a night track, but it's not too bad. Um, so the first thing, you'll obviously open your track up. Um, Go to adjust up here and then track lighting options and night track and just click it, and then it's a night track. This ambient color, I haven't messed with these a whole lot. I assume it has something to do with the sky or the tint of the game somehow. I know if one of these is a lot higher, if you have like a white card, there might be a tint on the paint. um, I had one track where I had a white paint scheme, and it would look green going into turn one for some reason. And then I lowered the G value, and it stopped doing that. So I've had another track where it's red, and I lowered it. So I don't know the right combination. Um, I've put those at random numbers. Same with sky rotation. I put it random, and then you can see if you look at these are all in the shared folder. So um, every track probably has these. They're all coded for when they become a night track. If you just watch these, they're all coded that they all get darker, which is kind of nice. um, I need to figure out how to do that because then I don't have to do what I'm going to show you here in a little bit. So yeah, that's night track, but you can obviously see the track itself is still a daytime, and it would look funky if it's a dark sky and this is lit up like it's normal. So two different ways to do this. I'll show you the first way, the way I used to do it first. I stopped doing it because I had some tracks where it wasn't working right, and I just said screw it, basically. uh, so what I did, oh, not those. These three, um, so this LT for light here, I just made a texture like 512 by 512, something small, doesn't really matter that much. And then just a square, I put the color black at, I think 80% opacity. Now, I use GIMP, if you use Photoshop or Krita or whatever photo editing software you have. I put 80% opacity, and then this shade track and shade track out. Shade track, I uh, it's like black, and then my secondary color's like a dark gray color. Still 80% opacity. I did a gradient, so it goes from dark on one side to a little bit lighter, and then shade track out is literally just that, except mirrored. And that is for over here. Excuse me. If you go into the F section, make sure you're in the F section, and then texture assignment, and you have layer here. If you go to light map, and then under MIP, you scroll down. Oh, it helps if you put those in the track first. I thought I already had them in there. Copy. Those just go right in the track mat. That's what the game pulls all this stuff off of, obviously. So then you can come in here and you can find your shade track. So out is obviously the outer edge, and then I think I usually end up doing 20, and I leave this one, the U, I just leave because it just fills up that space. Sometimes you have to mess with it if like some of these are scooted way in, or if there's another F section in the middle that cuts it off. You might have to play with it a little bit, but typically I just leave it. But you can see with the outer edge, the light's obviously going to be concentrated on the track, so as you get farther away, it's going to get darker. So then I just You can just copy forward all the way. I can do that. This track I made, so I know all the textures are pretty much all 3 and 3. I think on my track it's 2 and 2. So I know they're all the same. Some tracks will have the grass match up a certain way, or on the track there's seams they're trying to get to match up. So this might be like 1.4 and 3 in this section, but this section it's like 1.2 and 2.8. So you might have to go through and make sure you're not changing that stuff, um, which is the other reason I stopped doing like that for for tracks like that. You have to click on every single section and come down here and click stuff, and it gets to be quite time consuming. Um, and then that other one that's just the mirrored version of the outer shading is for the infield. It's the same thing though. Just lighter near the track, a little darker as you get further away, just to give that the feel of it actually being a night track. And then for the track itself, you can just hit S or whatever you name it. If you just hit a key, it'll quick sort to the first thing that starts with that letter, which is kind of nice. Don't click more than one key because Sandbox will crash every time. It's somewhat finicky, but it's nice you can kind of sort. But yeah, so you can do the shading track like that. And again, you can just go around, and I have concrete there, which is why that dialog box popped up, because it's wants to make sure that I don't overwrite the concrete and asphalt and all that. So you can sit here and do all the shading, and this is kind of nice because you can do it on the wall too, and you have these facets right, top, left, near, far. You can do it all over the wall, which is nice. Um, Sometimes it's good to do the walls. Sometimes I just leave the wall and I say, the light's bouncing off of them, it's fine. So I don't have time sometimes to go really in depth. And there's some guys out there that are very talented, and I've seen them do like the light coming through the fence, which is very cool. I'm not to that level yet, so I don't do that, but it's cool when they do it. So you can do it like that. Like I said, it can be kind of time consuming. I've had a few tracks. I'm not exactly sure why, but it hasn't worked at them. I haven't investigated too much because that's time consuming, and not that the other way saves a whole lot of time, but I do it this other way. Um, Before we get to that, the other thing you need for a night track is you have to have a light source that actually puts light on the track. Basically, you can either find a night track with light poles that you like the design of, um, and try to throw them in, make sure that they actually work. You can tell when you drive the car in game, uh, it'll look like you're going past a light. Like you can see it kind of, the car gets lighter and darker a little bit, typically. These three over here, I pulled these from the in-game Richmond track. They're not the prettiest looking, but they work, and it's a, a papyrus made track, so no one really complains. Sometimes the people that make some of the nicer ones, I don't want to use their stuff, and I don't know who they are most of the time, so if they see it, they're like, hey, that's BS, what are you doing? I don't want to steal their stuff, so I just use these, and it just makes light on the track, which I like. They're, like I said, they're not the prettiest, but I'm not going for pretty. I'm going for, can we race at night? So these just go right in the main folder, not in the track mat. So I did already have those, but just right in the track folder itself. It's a 3DO, and then a lot of tracks will have um, the light poles already, especially day ones. I didn't bother to put them on because I was like, it's fine. I don't need those yet. But a lot of tracks will, so you can come in here, go to Object View, add Object, and then find your light source, your pole that you put in there. And you can just match it right up to wherever the poles are, or if there's a lot of them, you can go every other one. Especially if they look the same, you can go every other one. That might be a little different because these have an actual light, or delete the ones in between. You don't have to put them super close, but you do have to have them somewhat close. I usually try to space them out somewhat evenly so they're not too far away. And then most of the time when you get in here like that, the 3DO does not show up. At least for me, it doesn't usually. Um, so I just save it real quick. And then we can get back into it. And then they usually always pop up. Another thing, I'm not really sure why, but it works, so I don't question it. Maybe I should, but I'm not going to, because it works. So now you can kind of see there, it's kind of faint, but you can see these two lines here. And that is the glare kind of coming off them. And that helps you just aim where you want the lights. And I don't know the exact like radius that it lights up, but even back behind it, it'll light it up a little bit. And then obviously going towards the track, that'll throw the most light. So it'll light up this whole area here. And then you'll have a second one and kind of the same thing. Just use that to aim. And if you want it like right on the edge of the grass, or like I said, if there's existing poles, you can just line those up. And then there are some pit box lights out there that look really nice that actually light up. But again, I don't know who made them. I try not to steal people's stuff too much when I'm making my own thing that I'm going to distribute. Probably doesn't matter, but sometimes people are picky about that. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just sneak one in the infield here and say, there you go. There's your pit road lights. Um, if you don't put these in, if you just shade the track and make it a night track, and or if you think you have lights that work and they don't actually work, uh, you'll know right away because your cars will be black and the gauges will be black. And yeah, that's also good for if you're ever like if you do spread these out quite a bit, like even that gap, like these cars in the middle here, they might get like really dark, like they're driving in the shadows, because it might be too far. So I might have to add some more, but so I would do that kind of all the way around the track, and then you can do this shading if you want. Or what I've started to do is I will open up WinMip, Sandbox, my tracks, find wherever you save your track. I have a whole Sandbox folder, so just different leagues that I do. Here's my Mario Kart tracks that I've been making and some other stuff. Um, just to keep it kind of all organized. Obviously, I do this too much, but it's quite fun. You can just build whatever you want. But go into there, go into your track mat, grab your actually I think it's Asphalt 01 that I used. Um, but I'll typically come in here and I will just grab any asphalt I can find on the track, any wall, decals, um, basically anything that's on track that I want them all to be darker, to be nighttime. So I'll grab all that. I don't always do it, but sometimes I'll even come in here and I will figure out the 3DOs, what MIPS correspond to the 3DOs. Like these are the billboards here, so I would grab some of those as well, and then make that a TGA. Go over to my other thing. You can see I kind of was messing around with it before, but save those as TGA. I'll just overwrite it, it's fine. And then go in, like I said, I use GIMP, but Photoshop works the same. This was just free for me, so I said, ooh, I like the sound of that. Okay, and then you can grab your two things here, and then what I will do, like I said, I just take this, make sure it's black, and I'll go, depending on how dark you want it, but 80 seems to be a pretty good benchmark, if you want to say that. And you can just literally click and just shade them. And then since I have that folder that's just Kentucky Night, I usually just overwrite them. I don't bother with renaming them night texture or whatever. Uh, just it's a little easier just to click the one button. So then you go back into this folder. Um, lost my asphalt one, but there we go. So there you can get those, and then I like to, if I'm not sure, I like to go back to MIP and just make sure all these numbers are the same. Um, there is, I think it's in about WinMIP. I think if you press on that, it'll take you to a web page, and it'll tell you what all this is. The map 0, it repeats on all 4 sides. 1, I think 1 is horizontal, 2 is vertical, and 3, it basically just, wherever this is, it just stretches to fit, like on the track. So, might change how the texture looks. For anything on track, I typically do 0 and get a seamless texture. You can play with it for different things. And then I've just noticed on other tracks that priority 4 is on the track. And then like the 3DO stuff is usually always priority 1. I haven't messed with that a whole lot. I think the cars are priority 8. So I'm not sure how the hierarchy works exactly. I also don't remember what the type is, but I usually leave that 10. So, but yeah, just make sure that matches. You can save it, overwrite. Same with this. Leave all that the same. Cool. And then you can find those. And then you can replace them in here. And again, I don't bother renaming them because it's a night track. So I don't need to worry about that. And this one goes to replace the MIP in here. I'll replace that. And then before you click, if you're in geometry view, you can hit reload MIPS. I always save this again. Sometimes when you hit reload MIPS, it'll crash, and then also if you save it, when it's saved too, it usually reloads it anyway. So you can see around the track now, that new texture I put in, it's all dark. So I would do that and do it for all these. And then you can see where we shaded, it's still shaded on top, so then it's really dark. And so you could shade them all at 80% or 70% and still come in here and if on the infield, if it's not dark enough or something, you can add some shading to make it darker. And then if we go over here, you can't really tell. Let's exit out and see. You might not be able to tell on that cam view, but in game you'll be able to tell. And I've done before trying to just make it look like a light is on the billboard because there would be a light, so kind of the middle's a little lighter. Oh yeah, now they're shaded. So you can see obviously a little shaded, and if you look at these, not shaded. So just gives it the feel of the night track. And you can play around with 70, 80, 90, whatever. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. It's a little time consuming, like I said, because you have to change all of these textures. For the tracks I make, I try to use all the same textures anyway, because I already did that to all of them. So now I have all those textures I've used. They're already all darkened, so I can just plop these in, not have to worry about too much. Then the other thing, if you have a track that you've raced at that you like the sky, I've used the sky before. There's like sometimes up to 20 of these. I've done just 5 and it's usually worked. I'm not sure how the game just randomly picks them. I'm not sure how that works exactly, but um, when I do night track, I like when it's actually night. So I have the sunny one. It's got like it's just pretty detailed. It's got stars. It's not too blurry, and the cloudy one's basically the same thing. There's just I think like 2 clouds. you, you can still see the stars, but it looks really nice. The only thing was these were like 2048 by 2048. So when I put them in here, I just came to image, scale image. So these were like 2048. So I put them either 1024 or you can even go to 512. Um, I'm sure that there's a difference that detailed people can see. I have not noticed different, especially because it's up in the sky. You can't really see much of it, especially when you're racing, like, and it's far away. So I haven't noticed too much of a drop off in details. Maybe it's not as sharp around the edges of stuff, but it's minimal. And these would be like 10,000 kilobytes, and I think I dropped these down to 512 by 512, and now they're 214. So saves a ton of space in your track, especially like the BBMC tracks. They look really nice, but I've dropped textures down and saved a ton of space. And I personally haven't noticed a difference, and hopefully it saves a little bit of FPS. Um, I think the other problem with those is the 3DOs, from whatever, just the way they're made, are taxing on systems. But if you can save some space that the game doesn't have to deal with and remember all at once, that helps. So that would be the only other thing would be the night sky and the shading. So, and then all this, like I said, if you use the shared folder, it automatically darkens, which is nice. I need to learn how they did that, because then you have like all these trackside decals here, like the Craftsman, the Xfinity, the Kentucky Speedway logo. Sometimes I just leave those and I say it's fine. Wait till someone notices to tell me to change it. Sometimes I will go in and make them darker. Like that start finish line, obviously, kind of stands out. The grass is light, so I'm sure those would stand out too. But some of the infield, I only have one infield object here, but like these garages, they'd probably stand out just because they would look like daytime. But um, you're racing. Why are you looking in the infield when you're racing? Look at the track. So tracks aren't the prettiest, but I try to make them run good. Um, I think that's all that there is for this. So hopefully if you're trying to make a night track in Sandbox and you sort of know how Sandbox works, hopefully that's helpful. Um, I don't think I missed anything. If I did, my bad. I'm sure you'll figure it out though. Yeah, I think that's it. So until the next video, that's all I got. See ya.